So I think when it comes to suffering, you have to have the right perspective.
Mhm.
Because if you don't have the right perspective on suffering, then you will not endure. Whenever there is a need to endure anything, there is going to be suffering because when you reach your threshold of like, this is how much I can tolerate, you have to push through that threshold if you're going to expand or increase, I'm saying, your capacity to deal with issues, to manage who you are, I'm saying, to get to this new level of growth.
Mhm.
And if you have the wrong perspective, if you think that suffering in marriage is, I'm saying, like, if you feel that suffering in marriage is a detriment, or some people even go as far as to think it's like you curse me with the wrong partner, like I chose wrong, like
Mhm.
you're not going to reap the benefits of suffering. Like suffering, you can either see it as something that is a hindrance or something that should be avoided, or you can look at it as a mechanism for growth.
We still do. We still do. We still do. We still do after all this time at the altar. I alter my mind and vow to God I love you till he make his return. The rain should be the least of your concern. Under God's umbrella, I promise to provide and preserve his word and to serve your mind and spirit. Let me drive the boat. I promise I'ma steer it. The devil cannot get near it. You'll know this soon as you hear it. You need me, I need you. Even after the altar, we still do.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of We Still Do. We're your host. I'm Jermaine.
I'm Lena.
And whether you're decades in or newlyweds, We Still Do is for you.
Yes, so if you haven't already, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss our weekly uploads on Thursday.
Yeah, leave us a comment, man, so we can, engage with you. We know that a lot of the things that we share do warrant further conversation and discussion. So,
Mhm.
questions, anything, leave those in the comments and we'll respond. Um, we believe we have a wonderful topic today because it's something that a lot of people don't address, especially when talking about marriage. But before we get into that, I just want to check with you. How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm doing good. I actually feel like I got some rest. So I feel rested today. It's a great
Okay,
morning. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Mm,
Why you feel rested?
because I slept well.
Okay. What helped you sleep well,
The Lord.
Minister Lena? Uh,
That's right. I was ordained
you
this
were.
past weekend.
I
Yeah.
mean, just a couple minutes. Talk about it.
Talk about what?
That was monumental for you.
It was huge. It was huge for me. I'm still soaking it all in and I'm in awe of God. Like just
Hmm.
the details that he orchestrated in the day, only he could have done. And I know some people is like, this is long overdue.
Yeah.
But for me, it was such a divine moment and perfect in God's timing,
Yeah.
and I'm just, I'm excited. I know that the Lord dealt with me about this public declaration of my yes to the call on my life. And so I know on the other side of obedience, right? Not to say that's not going to come without trials and tribulations or suffering,
Hmm.
but it is going to be um,
Hmm.
safer than being outside of his will.
Is that
I'll
a
say
is
that.
that a shameless plug about what we're gonna talk about?
That was a shameless plug. You see how I did that?
Okay.
You like that, huh?
Yeah, but I don't know if you tried to do it.
I did.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah.
All right. Um, but no, I'm super happy for you. Super proud of you. I know a lot went into that decision, and it was a big decision.
I
So
don't take it lightly.
proud of you for being obedient. So
Thank
speaking of
you.
obedience,
Hmm.
when we talk about, well, I'm doing great.
I asked you.
I didn't catch it.
I thought you told me you were doing good already before you went into asking me. Yeah, you did.
Oh, well, I'm doing good. Just in case you forgot to further ask.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
okay.
doing amazing.
I'm glad.
You look good.
Thank you. So do you.
I like this cream look.
Thanks.
I like you in cream.
What are we talking about today, honey?
I guess you don't like you in cream like I do. Um,
Wow.
but no, we want to talk about suffering
Yeah.
because when you talk about marriage, it's a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you can avoid. It's not something you can you can't do works and avoid suffering. Suffering is a part of marriage, and we want to talk about it because I think it's the reason why a lot of people get divorced.
Mm.
Whether you talk about, whether you say it's about money, about sex issues, about communication, suffering is why people get divorced. A lot of times, people get married for happiness. And when that happiness goes away, they feel that they made a mistake.
Mm.
They When we talk about suffering, we're talking about afflictions, we're talking about tribulations, and this idea of this hurts, like this is hard. Because when we talk about all the things that make marriage hard, it really starts to wear over a while if you don't have the proper perspective on suffering. So I just want to kick it off to you. When we talk about suffering in marriage, I want to first start with just your experience and what that feels like for you in marriage.
Suffering in marriage?
Mm-hmm.
I know you mentioned like some of the bigger ways in which we suffer, but I think any type of dying to yourself can feel like suffering. And I see that in the small things, like when I have to die to my emotions and rise above them, when I have to do what doesn't come naturally to me to serve you, when I have to do what I don't feel like doing, when I have to choose humility over pride, when I have to submit over being controlling. Like all of these things on a small scale can be forms of suffering. On a greater scale, we make the vow at the altar for better or for worse. And so when you think of worse, I think that can be, a grand scheme of things. But we signed up for it.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times when it comes to the point where we actually have to honor that vow, it's like, wait, what is going on?
Yeah.
And a lot of times we see it as a punishment from the Lord. Like, why am I going through this trial? Why am I going, through this suffering? And really, oftentimes, it's to refine us.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a punishment from the Lord. It's because there's something in us. He wants to work out of us, work in us, wants to produce in us. And we know this in Romans 5:3. Let me read that. It says, we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. So our suffering is not meaningless. There's something that the Lord is producing in us and maturing us as Christians. And when I think of marriage as it relates to discipleship, we're called to pick up our cross, right? And to follow him. And obviously, back in that time, they carried their cross to their death, you know? And so if we are to pick up and bear our cross as a disciple, it's no different in marriage.
Yeah. And I don't know what it is about marriage to cause people to not want to suffer for that. Think about it. When we work out, we suffer. When we play the game and we're tired, but we want to finish this, we suffer. When we want to binge and our body is like, no, you need to go to sleep. You're like, no, like I don't want to. Like this is so good. And you're fighting sleep. That is a mini form of suffering. Like when you want to accomplish a goal in business, you will endure to get the job done, or you will endure for your boss because of your paycheck, or maybe even just your pride in your work, or just being committed. You know what I'm saying? Like we will push ourselves to the extremes, like running a marathon. You know what I'm saying? Like
suffering.
It's a lot of suffering. You know what I'm saying? Even to the point of like when I finish, there's this thing in there's this mindset of like I'll never run it again. You know what I'm saying? Like getting to the finish line, sitting, really contemplating life decisions after this, like not knowing what the next step is for me.
Yeah.
But after some time, like, it's okay, I'm ready to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's something about us as people when we get into a marriage, we don't allow the principle of suffering to be in our marriage as well. Like, marriage is the one thing a lot of people get in just for the sake of happiness or for the sake of you make me better, I make you better. But that is a terrible perspective when it comes to marriage, because when you talk about marriage and you talk about something that is so intimate, something that's so connected, it's going to rub you the wrong way. So I think when it comes to suffering, you have to have the right perspective. Because if you don't have the right perspective on suffering, then you will not endure. Whenever there is a need to endure anything, there is going to be suffering, because when you reach your threshold of, like, this is how much I can tolerate, you have to push through that threshold if you're going to expand or increase, your capacity to deal with issues, to manage who you are, to get to this new level of growth.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have the wrong perspective, if you think that suffering in marriage is, like, if you feel that suffering in marriage is a detriment, or some people even go as far as to think it's like you curse me with the wrong partner, like I chose wrong, like you're not going to reap the benefits of suffering. Like, suffering, you can either see it as something that is a hindrance or something that should be avoided, or you can look at it as a mechanism for growth. It's in the Bible, it says, for those who love God, all things work out for the good of them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Romans 8:28.
Like, loving God gives you a right perspective on suffering. Because loving Him, you see it as like, okay, there's this glory at the end of all this for me. Like, there's something on the other side of suffering that will make me a better person, that'll get me closer to Christ, that will help me develop this character. You know what I'm saying? Because when you really think about it, like think about all the things you've endured. Like, I think about, for us in marriage, like for me, when I feel that I am at my capacity in our marriage, and it's just like, bro, what is this? Like, I thought this was something that we overcame. You know what I'm saying? I thought this was something that we didn't need to endure anymore, because we're now married 8 years. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, okay, there's still something in you that needs to be worked out to get to that next level in your marriage, to become closer, to be more united, to be more one flesh with my wife. And it's like, well, in order to get to that point, there has to be a form of suffering. And so you need to have the right perspective of suffering if you're going to grow in your marriage, and if you're going to be happy in your marriage.
I feel like your attitude in suffering matters, because I remember when we were going through, it was postpartum, and we were going through financial hardship, and it was just the mental battle that I was already dealing with, on top of the external factors of, financial strain. It was so weighty, and it felt so long. And I remember I was just like, Lord, I don't ever want to be here again. Like, like, I dreaded the season so bad. I just wanted out. I wanted out of the season. It's taking forever. What do I need to do? But it was like a why me, like a victim mentality. Like, why me, Lord? Why am I going through this? And the moment that I shifted my perspective to be like, okay, what are you trying to teach me through this? Then everything shifted for me. I was able to be grateful and find joy even in the midst of what felt uncomfortable, understanding that there's something He's producing in me. And in the Word, it tells us, like, don't count it strange. There's many Christians, many brothers and sisters going through trials all over the world. It's a part of it, right? It's a part of our Christian walk as disciples, to go through trials. And your attitude matters in the way that you suffer.
Yeah.
And I had to learn that in that season, which was, a really rough one for me. But it changed the way that I suffer. Now it's more like Lord, help me to suffer well.
Mm-hmm.
Help me to suffer well. Help me to grasp everything you are teaching me in this moment. Because I don't want to be walking around the mountain again and again, repeating a cycle because I wasn't willing to learn the first time what the Lord was trying to teach me.
Yeah. And I like what you said, because when we're talking about suffering, this whole thing is about suffering well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're going to suffer. Why not suffer well? Like, you mentioned like that our attitude in suffering is one of the elements of suffering well. Because if we're going to suffer, we might as well have the proper attitude about suffering. And another element of suffering well is knowing why you suffer. One of the reasons we suffer is for the sake of obedience as Christians to Christ. Like, we suffer to be obedient because we know to love him is to obey him. And so if we obey him, then we are loving well. Like, we are staying in alignment with who he's called us to be. And like, also in Romans 14, like, Paul is dealing with, Jews and Gentiles about, like, how are we to behave, especially like specifically with food around weaker believers. You know what I'm saying? Like, if what you're eating is causing them to stumble, then don't eat it. You know what I'm saying? This faith that you have, like, about, like, don't judge them for what they eat, or don't judge the other for what they abstain from. You know what I'm saying? Like, let this faith that you have be just between you and God. Like, don't use your faith, your convictions, you know what I'm saying, to judge other people. Like, don't go against what God is doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so this is a point that Paul is making. Like, if you have, like, if what you're eating causes them to stumble, don't eat it in front of them. And think about that literally. How hard is it for us to abstain from food? Like, how hard is it for us to, especially when we emotional? Like, I just discovered, you probably discovered it before I did, but I'm an emotional eater. I really can be. Like, I'll take me some golden Oreos when I don't really, when I feel like, dang, like, listen, it's rough. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll take me some golden Oreos, take me some milk, dip that boy for probably about 7 seconds so it get like the right consistency. Like, it ain't mush, but it ain't hard. And like, man, it's just everything my body just wants. But like, when your emotions are at their threshold, whether you're anxious or whether you're leaning towards depression, you're more prone to make decisions that you wouldn't make if you were in your right mind. And what helps us is remembering why we are suffering. You know what I'm saying? Like, bodybuilders, like, I got a buddy who does bodybuilding, and you have to, like, literally not eat anything for like I don't know if it's 24 hours or however long. Like, you literally have to suffer so your body can look a certain way in front of the judges. You know what I'm saying? Like a diet is a form of suffering. So when it comes to marriage, suffering well involves us to know why we're suffering. You know what I'm saying? Like, as believers, one of the reasons is we suffer for the sake of obedience.
We suffer for the sake of obedience, and I also think suffering is a part of the sanctification process. And you were saying, like, marriage is not to make you happy, and we know it's to make us holy, right? And part of that holiness that's being produced in you is through the sanctification process. And I believe suffering is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
I can say that personally through things that I've endured and things that I've been through. Had it not been for the suffering,
you want to share about
I would not be where I am today. What you mean? Why are you smiling?
Just sharing about, one of the ways, like a practical example of what that looked like in your life.
I just did through the financial hardship and postpartum depression and all of that. That was a form of suffering for me. That was really, really hard. Um, I mean, you were just grieving and you wanted to go running, and I'm cramping and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in so much pain. But because I know that your pain was different than mine and me wanting to support you, I ran anyways. That was suffer for me. On a practical sense of like what that looks like. I've gone through suffering of grief of losing people. I've gone through suffering of losing a job. I've gone through suffering of losing relationships. I mean, there's so many different forms of suffering, but for me, it's my suffering looks different. And I believe that should be the case as you mature and as you grow as a believer. But now it's more of not something that I run from, but something I run towards. Like, I want to kill my flesh. I don't want to give over to it and be walking according to it. You know what I mean? And so it's something that I don't shy away from, where at one point it was like, what am I going to have to go through?
Yeah.
What am I going to have to go through to get whatever it is that you want to walk through my life? Like, I didn't want to go through nothing. And now it's like, okay, Jesus suffered and I'm made in his image, right? Like, I'm called to suffer as well. And then I heard something from, I think it was Dr. Sarita, and she was saying how it was like a baton.
Yeah.
And how Jesus on the cross said it was finished, but it just began for us. And it's like he was passing us the baton so that we can take on that suffering. So as long as we are here on earth, in this body, in this flesh, there will be some form of suffering. Now, one of the things that stood out to me is you mentioned several different ways that we willingly suffer, whether it be in the gym or whether it be our appetite or whether it be diet or whatever it is. We will willingly suffer for those things. But when it comes to marriage, we don't want to be touched. We don't want to suffer. We don't want to go through anything. We don't want to die to our pride. We don't want to humble ourselves. We don't want to, be
so
sanctified.
True. That's so true. And I think one of the reasons why we refuse to suffer is our pride. Like, we don't want to be wrong. Like, you can't tell me like to watch my tone. Like, who you talking to? Like, I'm the man in a relationship. You don't talk to me like that. You know what I'm saying? Or like, we don't want to let that pride be touched. And pride is, I think it's starting to become so cliche to talk about. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, man, like pride this, you know what I'm saying? Like, pride is the opposite of humility. And, just we talk about it. And I think we're starting to lose the weight of just how much pride hinders our growth. Because pride takes the position of like, I know what I'm talking about and you can't tell me otherwise. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's why it comes before a fall, because it's like, no, you can always learn. And if you don't put yourself in a position to be open to learn or to hear, then you're setting yourself up for failure. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can be prideful, but you also can be prepared to fall, because pride comes before a fall. And so when we talk about suffering well, understanding that suffering produces growth. You know what I'm saying? Like, as you was talking, I was thinking of this passage of scripture, and it says, Philippians 1:21, it says, for me, to live is Christ and to die is gain. So when you die, like, which is a form of suffering, like, there is gain in that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't just suffer for the sake of suffering. You know what I'm saying? Like, suffering isn't just a result of evil. You know what I'm saying? Like, suffering, it also produces gain. So what do you, like, this is this is something that I ask myself, I ask my couples, like, what is this for? Like, in my head, like, as I'm seeing them like argue, like, I'm really trying to figure out, like, what is the problem? Lord, Holy Spirit, like, help me see, like, help me track what is really driving this negative pattern of interacting between them. Like, because they're suffering, but help me be able to identify so that they're not just suffering for the sake of suffering, but they understand what's really driving it, so they can start to see, like, oh, like, the reason why this is so hard is because, like I really want you to be close to me, but I'm not sharing it how I need to. Like when I see you shutting down, like I get louder because I want you to hear me, but you're not hearing me. And so now I'm getting louder, and now I might use a few cuss words. Now I might say things that are out of the ordinary just to get you to respond. And so it's like I'm seeing that, and then I'm also seeing the other partner who's shutting down. It's like, man, I can't do nothing to please you. So it's like, because I don't want to disappoint you, it's like I just throw my hands up, and it's just like I just can't. And that person is also suffering because they don't want to disappoint the other person. So when I'm able to help them see just how they're trying to like stay connected, but their way of doing that is ineffective, it's maladaptive. Oh, that's why I'm doing it. Oh, so now we can kind of change it. Now we can communicate properly. And so now we're suffering for a purpose because we're learning how to we're not suffering because our spouse is like yelling or cussing us out. That's one part. But then when we get to the root of it, it's like, okay, they're doing it for a reason. Most couples, obviously it ain't all couples, but they're doing it because they want to stay close, but they don't know how else to do it. So now we have to suffer to keep down our guard so we can have these hard conversations to work through what's keeping us disconnected. And so like suffering has an element of gain attached to it if you're willing to go through that pain, to go through those trials. Romans, one of the definitions of suffering in Romans 5:3 is pressure. You know what I'm saying? Like this pressure that I'm feeling, like this is a form of suffering. You know what I'm saying? Like when I'm lifting and I'm trying to get this heavy weight off my chest, like this is pressure, and so I have to push it off. And so in marriage, when you feel that pressure, when you feel the weight of your spouse being disappointed, like how do you keep your mind or your attitude in a proper keep your mind and your attitude in the proper position so you can view suffering well. You know what I'm saying? Because if to live is Christ and to die is gain, there's something to gain on the other side of dying.
I also think that there's a different measure of grace each couple has. Like we're all going to experience suffering, right? Our love is going to be tested. Nobody escapes that in marriage. There will be a form of suffering, and that will look different in every one of our lives. But I think about how Paul said his grace is sufficient. And there is a grace that we have, and it's sufficient, especially in your time of weakness that you experience. There is grace for that. And so if you would lean into the grace and not try to make it happen or do it out of your own strength, but understand that, God, this is for your glory and you are producing something in me, then it will help you to stay under the weight of what may feel like pressure, as you were discussing, suffering can sometimes feel like. And I think that we have to push past that, right? When you have the weight on you and it's like, oh my gosh, you either let that kill you or you're going to push it up. And so sometimes there's a suffering that we go through and it does feel like a literal death. Like this is so extremely painful and devastating. And it feels like, okay, it's too weighty. I can't do this, Lord. Help me. Like I need your help. He come in, he going to support you to be able to push up. He going to spot you to be able to push up the weight and the pressure that you may be feeling. But it's not all him. There is work required on your end to be able to push and to press through that, whatever that form of suffering is.
And in that, like he'll allow like a way that he lifts that pressure is by us getting wise counsel. You know what I'm saying? When you have somebody spotting you, you're suffering and you're going to get wise counsel on like the suffering. Like I don't know how to like me and my wife, like man, we just really been stuck on this issue around kids, and we really are having difficulty parenting. Like she has a different parenting style and I have a different parenting style, and we can't seem to make that mesh. Like help us. Like man, me and my wife, we struggling like with our intimacy. Like we haven't had sex in months, and every time we try, like we really just like find ourselves arguing. Like we really need help because this is a way that we connect. Or, man, we really can't just seem to have a productive conversation about, areas where we're struggling, because we always end up yelling and arguing at each other, and then we just let it be. And we never seem to overcome that. We need help. Like, going to get counsel on where you're stuck, going to get counsel in areas where you're suffering is a part of suffering well. You know what I'm saying? Because doing it on your own, when you don't have the answers, it makes it very, very hard, and it makes you feel like you're suffering. It makes your suffering feel isolated, and nobody else is going through the same thing. So relying on counsel, what you're doing is you're speeding up, or you're decreasing your suffering time, because you're seeking out somebody who's done that before, or somebody who has expertise in that. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I talk to parents of autistic children, like I understand that suffering. And so, because I have a level of expertise in it from experience, but also from study, like, I can help them manage the suffering that comes with everything of seeing their child, delayed in certain areas. And really, like, the suffering is really being able to manage what comes up for you. So when we think about suffering, like, really understanding that you have a grace is important. And I'll even go further to say this: you have a grace in suffering for your spouse.
Your spouse.
Your spouse.
Heavy on the your spouse.
Yes.
Like, yeah, no, true.
A lot of times, man, we be looking to see, like, people happy and all this stuff on social media, and even in our friend groups, people come to church, like, they just praising and worshiping, you know what I'm saying? They just look like they got it all together, and we idolize that, like, we covet that. And it's like, no, don't do that, because they have a grace for their spouse. You know what I'm saying? Like, we see people who've been married for like 40 years, and we hear couples talk about, man, like, I want what they got. No, you don't. No, you don't.
You don't want that suffering.
You don't, because you don't know what they had to endure to get to where they are. And that grace is not for you. That grace is for them. You have a grace for your spouse. Lean into that grace and allow God to help you love your spouse better. In Romans, it also talks about, like, man, love one another with brotherly love. Like, outdo one another with showing honor. Like, when we talk about marriage, and we talk about us as disciples, and we talk about brothers and sisters, like, we are still disciples first. Our discipleship doesn't change, doesn't shift because we're in marriage now and our spouse is just our spouse. No, our spouse is still our brother and sister in Christ. So those instructions to love our brother and sister in Christ, or outdo one another with showing honor, that's still the same. Like, how can I do that in the marriage? How can I outdo you? How can I still be obedient in suffering, so that Christ still gets the glory out of my life, out of my marriage? How can I do that and still have the right attitude? And it's knowing ultimately who you're suffering for. Like, you're suffering for God. Like, imagine this. Imagine the suffering that Christ had to endure, knowing that he knew when he was going to die. Like, think about that. He knew when he was going to die. He knew how he was going to die. Like, that's mind-boggling to me. Like, when you know you are going to die a specific way, and you know how or when you're going to die, that I imagine somebody being told you only got 6 months to live. Like, if you don't have the proper perspective on suffering and who you're suffering for, that is tormenting. That is very tormenting, to be told you only have a certain amount of time to live. You're not going to be able to endure to the end. Oh, man. Hold on. I think it's like, it's talking about, like, the kingdom of heaven. I gotta find it. It was good. What is it? Was it 14? No, it went 14. Bro, I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna let you talk. Bro, I gotta find it because it was talking about the kingdom.
One thing that I wanted to touch on to go back to is what I see is a lot of people suffering silently. And there's a suffering that they are enduring on their own, not even with their spouse.
Wow.
Where you have your spouse to lean on and to be united to in the midst of suffering to help carry that burden with you. A lot of people are choosing to suffer silently. And one thing that I will say is what is detrimental to your suffering is for you to be isolated in your suffering. And I say that because if the enemy can get you alone and leave you alone to your thoughts and your thinking about the suffering you are experiencing, then he will devour you. So it's important. He was talking about the counsel. There is safety in a multitude of counsel. And so in the midst of you suffering, whether it's something you don't feel you can go to your spouse to and you need outside support, or if it is something where you feel like, okay, I need to be vulnerable in this moment and share with him how I'm feeling or share with her how I'm feeling so that you can endure the suffering together, two can do so much more than one can alone. And so I just want to encourage you not to suffer silently, because we all do have a portion of suffering, but it's never for you to suffer alone.
Yeah, that's good. And we can talk so much about just suffering well, but if you wanna, if we wanna have a fulfilling marriage, we must understand that suffering is a part of it, and we need to suffer well. Suffering well is one of the key elements to having a thriving marriage, because there are so many things about this life that are unpredictable. There's suffering that we'll just go through. We're having to die to ourselves. There's suffering that we'll have to endure from silly choices that we make. But at the end of the day, if you're going to have a thriving marriage, you have to have the right attitude on suffering. You have to have the right perspective on suffering, and you have to know who you're suffering for. I'll just let you. What's the marriage emotion?
Okay, so our marriage in motion is dealing with surrender.
You look good. Girl, you look good.
Thank you, handsome.
Yeah. You look good in cream.
Our marriage in motion challenge for this week is dealing with surrender. And so we want you to identify one area in your marriage where your flesh resists obedience. If that's forgiveness, if that's control, if that's communication, if that's letting your pride down. We want you to identify one area, right? And then surrender and ask the Lord, pray, Lord, help me to suffer well in this area, to endure for the sake of obedience and love. And then take one step of obedience this week. If it's forgiveness, then extend grace. If it's pride, then apologize first. If it's avoidance, then initiate a heartfelt conversation. Whatever that is, make sure that you are initiating this act of obedience. This week is all about surrendering, right? And I believe that surrendering and suffering go hand in hand, because sometimes you have to surrender to your idea of what you thought life or that thing can look like. And so we want you to take action steps. We give you these marriage emotions so that you can do them, and they compound and you find yourself thriving in your marriage. This is a part of growth, because a lot of times we don't even identify the ways in which we are suffering, or the pride that is in us that is keeping us from suffering well. So that is this week's marriage emotions.
Yeah, man. And until next time, peace.
Thank you for watching.
Always gonna love you and always. No doubt you're my blessing. Ain't no second guessing.